Hello and welcome to an episode of Atomic Vinyl Reviews. My name is Jacob and today I wanted to do a little video for you guys detailing my sort of thoughts and theories about the upcoming movie Godzilla vs. Kong. So, in advance I just want to say I apologize if I'm coming across as a little bit out of it in this video. I have been quite sick for the past couple of days, but I still really wanted to make this video for you guys as soon as possible because first of all the ideas are still vaguely fresh in my head, so I didn't want to wait too long, and we are hopefully liable to get a trailer for this film out soon. And I wanted to detail some of my thoughts before that happens and we get some more clues. There's no actual sort of evidence that we're getting a trailer anytime soon, by the way. I'm just saying that because, it's like 4 months away till the film comes out, so we're liable to get at least a teaser trailer soon. It just kind of makes sense. But yeah, let's get right into it. The question on everybody's mind seems to be, who will win? Will it be the Titan Godzilla, bringer of balance, or will it be the big monkey Kong, bringer of bananas? But personally, I think the more important and more interesting question is, why are they fighting in the first place? Which is something I will get into a little bit later on in this video, as it's actually important to touch on if we want to make any sort of educated guess as to who will actually win. The consensus seems to be that there are three main options as to how this film could play out. The first of which is Godzilla kills Kong. The second of which, Kong kills Godzilla. The third of which, they fight each other initially and then team up together to fight a third and stronger, more threatening adversary. I think there is generally a case for all three. However, personally, I am generally leaning more to the third option. The main reason for this is that both of these kaiju have been seen as benevolent in their previous films. In Kong Skull Island, Kong is seen as a protector of his island, as almost like a nature spirit to this island. He's respected and worshipped by these people on this island, and he ultimately is the hero of the movie. And the same goes for Godzilla. In the previous two films we've had in this MonsterVerse series, it has been firmly established that Godzilla is the bringer of balance, which kind of makes him sound like Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker in that prophecy. But he's been seen as the one who'll bring balance between man and beast, and is the key for the coexistence between man and the rest of the Titans. So I think there is a strong case towards these two battling for whatever reason at the beginning of the film, but then ultimately teaming up at the end to serve a bigger cause. Some speculation has been as to what they might be fighting against. A popular kaiju that they would be fighting against seems to be Destroyer, which I think would work really well, because one of my biggest issues with King of the Monsters was the fact that they just kind of got the oxygen destroyer, shoved it into the film, and it was pointless and underdeveloped in that film. It's such a big deal in the original 54 film, and to just have it like, oh, there's an oxygen destroyer now, and it goes boom, and that's it. And if this film explored some of the detriment of that oxygen destroyer existing a little bit more, that would be really good, because I think to have this monsterverse, for humankind to have a weapon like the oxygen destroyer that they can just employ willy-nilly whenever they need to take out a Titan is a little bit overpowered on the human side of things. So I really think there needs to be a very strong detriment to using this oxygen destroyer in any future situation. And to have it spawn another kaiju like Destroyer would just work perfectly for this. Problem with this is we've had no accounts of Toho licensing Destroyer or anything like that, and I don't know, it seems like a slim chance. Destroyer is not really one of those very well-known kaiju, despite him being kind of a big deal with the 90s Heisei series. But if you talk to a non-Godzilla fan, I don't think they're liable to have any idea who Destroyer is, whereas Mothra and King Ghidorah or even Rodan, some of them may know. So to have him in this film, I think there's a really slim chance of that happening. Another idea that would make sense is if they bring back even from the previous film from King Ghidorah, because at the end credit scene we do have that Ghidorah head, Kevin's head, found by what's his name? What's his name? Noah or something like that. You know, the bad guy from King of the Monsters. And that could work if they do bring back King Ghidorah at the end there. However, the fact that we kind of already saw Godzilla fighting King Ghidorah in the previous film and to have him brought back right here seems kind of odd as well. And I think from some of the behind the scenes stuff, it sounds like that end credit scene wasn't meant to be linked directly to this film, but had more to do with future films that may happen. It was just kind of tagged on there as, like, I don't know. I wasn't getting the vibe that they really had anything established with it just yet. Now, a lot of people have stated sort of very negative opinions about this option coming to fruition. They really don't want a Batman versus Superman situation happening. And they think it's sort of an overly done trope where, they start off fighting and then join forces at the end. To an extent, I agree, but also I don't think it happens nearly as much in kaiju films. And I think it would probably thematically be the best option out of all of them. Just again going off of how the both kaijus were genuinely benevolent and were the heroes in the previous films. To have them fighting each other just seems really kind of contrived, and it's got the markings of Hollywood being like, oh, what pairing should we do to make it more profitable all over it. So that's just my sort of thoughts. Plus, I like both of these kaiju, and to see either of them defeated at the end of this film makes me kind of upset. Well, I'm going to be upset either way, is what I'm trying to say. We have had the filmmakers say that there is a definite winner out of these two, so that does lend itself to the other two options. I still think they could somehow make the teaming up thing also work. There are little loopholes that might still happen, but if we are going to assume that what they're saying is true and that there is a definitive winner, also bearing in mind definitive winner doesn't necessarily mean that either of them die or perish or nothing like that. It just means one wins the fight over the other. We have the other two options, which is either Godzilla defeats Kong or Kong defeats Godzilla. The evidence for Godzilla defeating Kong, I'd say, is a little bit lesser than Kong defeating Godzilla. Now, this has nothing to do with, like, the strength of the monsters or anything like that, because going by that, I would say that Godzilla would easily defeat Kong. First of all, I'm going to talk about the size thing a little bit. Now, I know time and time again people have been saying, oh, Kong was just, like, younger in the Kong Skull Island movie, so he's gonna grow, like, to be Godzilla size by this movie, which I think is, it's probably what they're gonna do, but it's just stupid. And the reason for this is, if you looked at the Kong in Kong Skull Island, he is not built like an infant. He is built like a young adult at the very least. Proportionally, he is proportioned like an adult Kong humanoid gorilla thing. If we look at both gorillas and humans, or any other sort of apes, and you see the proportions of a young child, where they still have the capability of growing exponentially to, for example, if Kong were the size of an infant and he suddenly grew into an adult, he would have had to have been an infant in Kong Skull Island, like large head, large eyes, really tiny body, and not that much strength going on. Whereas he was built like an adult ape in that film, and by the time a creature is built like that, they don't just grow exponentially. So I think that is a little bit stupid. especially going by the time frame, knowing kaiju, they're meant to live for millennia. Now I know Kong isn't like not all kaiju probably at the same lifespan or anything like that. But generally it would seem kind of weird that in that time Kong could grow from being this small relative to Godzilla, which is, huge. Like he would be like this big to Godzilla, and then to grow to that size within what is it, like 70 years or something like that. Yeah, it just seems a little bit strange. But having said that, I think generally in terms of like strength and abilities, Godzilla would win no problem. He was literally nuked numerous times and lived to tell the tale. Not to mention we saw what he did at the end of King of the Monsters, so I think it would be absolutely insane unless they introduce something like the anti-nuclear bacteria or something and make Godzilla severely weakened in that film. But that's pretty much the only thing I think Godzilla defeating Kong has going for it. Just the sheer strength of him and the fact that he's been the main the main figurehead of this monsterverse up to date. However, thematically, I find it very difficult for them to kill off Kong. I think it would be very strange, and I can kind of see a scenario story-wise, where because Godzilla is portrayed as the alpha and the necessary creature to bring balance, I can kind of see, combined with the a line at the end of King of the Monsters, where Professor Stanton or Dr. Stanton, whatever he's called, says, "Oh, I'm glad he's on our side," and then Chen is just like, "For now." Kind of implying that there is a possibility that Godzilla may turn on mankind, which I would actually kind of enjoy seeing. I would love to see this version of Godzilla do a classic rampage, go destroy some cities in that classic sort of Godzilla way, which we really haven't seen in this series, because before he's just been tiptoeing around all the buildings and the people and, and just focusing his efforts on the other kaiju. But that does kind of give us some sort of a setup where potentially humankind could piss off Godzilla, which I find it really hard to see how they could do that. I mean, they literally oxygen destroyed him. They nuked him numerous times. They've done all this crap, and he's been pretty chill about it. But whatever, I'm sure screenwriters can make bullshit magic happen. I don't know. And, if they find some way to make Godzilla pissed off with humanity, Godzilla could turn on them, and then we could see a film pan out where Kong has to take the throne and he becomes the next alpha and the next sort of bringer of balance. I could potentially see that happening. However, like I said, it still feels really contrived to me. Whereas in the original Godzilla versus, well, it was King Kong versus Godzilla film, it made more sense that Godzilla was portrayed as a villain in that film, because Godzilla up to that point had been a straight villain. And Kong, even though he was sort of neutral, he still leans more to a protagonistic role, being more humanoid and more empathy. You can have more empathy towards him in general, is kind of the general idea, him being more of a mammalian humanoid creature. And so to have the people bring Kong to Godzilla to fight him in that film to try and get rid of Godzilla kind of made more sense. Another little idea of something that humans could do to actually piss off Godzilla, since like I said, the oxygen destroyer didn't really bother him, nukes didn't really bother him. Like, I mean, he only got sort of angry after the oxygen destroyer for a second after they nuked him again to revive him, and then he, like, looked at the main character and was like, "Oh, okay, I'll chill out now." But we did get that little, like, moment of him being angry. The only thing that Godzilla really seemed to have a connection with was Mothra. So my theory might be that perhaps we could have a remake of Mothra mixed into this film, where potentially the humans could try and harm or steal Mothra, because we do know at the end credits, not the end credits, actually yeah, in the end credits, in one of those newspaper clippings, that Mothra did indeed lay another egg, so she is still continuing on. So potentially we could have a Mothra situation where the humans take Mothra or her egg or whatever, and instead of the other Mothra coming to try and save that egg, we actually have Godzilla doing it, and him being pissed off and trying to save the egg or the Mothra larva or whatever. And that's how he goes against humanity, and then they have to bring in Kong to fight him. And then the conclusion could really pan out anyway in that sort of situation. Those are just some of my loose thoughts about Godzilla versus King Kong. I'm really curious to hear what you think of them and your thoughts about this film and little predictions and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you guys for bearing with my sort of out of itness, tiredness in this video and all the ums and ahs and stuff. So yeah, I appreciate that. And don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in future videos. So yeah, may all your vinyl be irradiated vinyl. Over and